Hello and welcome to Absolute Trust Talk. I am Kirsten Howe, and this is our podcast, our video podcast, audio podcast here at Absolute Trust Council. I'm very glad that you're here today to watch and listen to us. I have a very special guest today. My guest is Miguel Delgado, who is a senior wealth advisor at Legacy Wealth Management. Miguel specializes in offering a comprehensive approach to tax minimization, asset protection, and fulfilling personal passions. Of course, that's very important. His unique ability to integrate financial goals with life goals promotes inspiration, confidence, and purpose. Miguel has a political science degree from Cal State University East Bay, and I remember him telling me that at one point his intent was to become a lawyer, but Miguel recovered his senses and discovered his passion for finance and decided to become a certified financial planner instead. Smart man. Welcome, Miguel. I'm so very, very happy, honored to have you here.
Oh, thank you for having me.
You are most welcome. So we're going to do something a little bit different here. Miguel is going to be here, and we're going to do actually several episodes with him. We're going to do 3 episodes. So they'll each be kind of focused around something in particular that Miguel is very skilled and knowledgeable at. So the first, let's just get started. I know that a lot of your clients are business owners. Why do you like working with business owners?
The short answer to that, I think, is there's more complexity that comes with it. It's fun because you're not just helping people with their personal finance at that point. You're also helping them figure out how they can use the business to create personal net worth. But I feel also like business owners can better appreciate the importance of planning and being proactive with their finances because they've seen how quickly profits can dissipate, right? When planning isn't done, and the expenses are flowing through all different kinds of places, and if we're not proactive enough, all those profits tend to get spent either on the business or other things. And then lastly, it's really the story that kind of fascinates me. A lot of business owners that I work with tend to have a similar story where they started off with an idea, whether it was to provide a product or a service, or maybe they started this business for themselves and creating cash flow. But it started off as an idea, and then all of a sudden they're hiring employees. Now they have HR, and now they have payroll, and they're talking to attorneys, and and it blew up to be this bigger thing that they didn't even expect, or maybe they didn't expect to see how difficult it could be to manage that kind of a business. And so that is fascinating to me. Just learning about that story, who they are as individuals, and what they're intending to do with the business for the business sake and also for themselves.
Yeah, the added complexity does make things more fun. I mean, we have to be interested in what we do too.
Exactly.
Yeah, in order to do a good job at what we do, it has to be interesting to us, I believe. And yeah, I agree with you. Complexity is fun. So when you first start working with a new client who happens to be a business owner, what are you most often seeing that you can help them with right away? Like, this is the low-hanging fruit. Let's talk about this stuff.
Yeah, when I'm first meeting with somebody that's a prospective client, obviously we'll want to make sure if it's a good fit. Can I solve the types of problems that they have? Usually, I'm kind of looking at taxes first. Is there anything that I can do to help them with tax planning? And so some of the tax strategies that I initially look at is something like their employer-sponsored retirement plan. If they're in California, they're pretty much required to have something, whether it's a 401k plan, Cal Savers, what have you. But there are other reasons to get it other than fulfilling a mandate, right? There's some tax benefits to that. Are they maxing out the 401k plan or the defined benefit plan, whatever it is? There's also tax credits that are now available through the Secure Act 2.0 a lot of business owners aren't even aware of. Um, so there's incentive for people to be looking at these types of programs for their employees and for themselves. Um, if they have a spouse working in the business, or if they don't, maybe asking the question to their CPA or attorney, why isn't the spouse added to the business, or can we add the spouse onto the payroll? And if
Yeah.
the spouse is on payroll, uh, are we maxing out her or their retirement benefit,
Retirement. Yeah. Yeah.
right? HSAs is a different one. Health savings accounts. I think this year the max is 8,300. It's a full tax deduction. I like to use those as well. In certain years, oil drilling funds can be opportunistic for people who have extraordinary high income years. Um, for charitably inclined individuals, donor advised funds, and the list goes on. But those are some of the initial things I look at, and then other things that are not so direct, could be low hanging fruit, if you will, is by asking questions about their taxes. Usually we're getting their CPA involved. A lot of times I'm finding that we have to upgrade their CPA.
Oh, yeah. The CPA isn't quite what the business now needs.
Exactly. Maybe they started off with somebody who was a friend or a neighbor, and now they've just outgrown that
Sure.
individual. There's multiple partners looking at a succession plan, making sure that's in place. Estate planning is obviously something that I consider low hanging fruit in the terms of providing value, because, as you know, you probably run into people who tell you I should have done this years ago, and are are just getting this done.
Right. Yeah.
Um, and then another one, last one, is something like making sure they have the adequate insurance. We don't handle a lot of insurance, but things like long-term care, for example, if
Mhm.
they're a C corporation, they can deduct 100% of the premiums, and these premiums can be expensive. Some of them even allow you to pay upfront for them. So strategically, if there's a business owner who's thinking about retiring in the next, year or two, they could adopt a plan like this and get a pretty significant tax deduction for having a benefit that they're going to use for themselves anyways.
Okay. Oh, I would also think that when you're meeting with a business owner, um, a real basic thing would be, what is the form of this business? I encounter new clients who are doing business as sole proprietorships, and depending on the business, that can scare me. Shouldn't you be a corporation, or at least an LLC or something like that? But maybe they're a corporation and they're the wrong kind of corporation. That's something that you would know more about.
Yeah, I do talk about that. It's usually something I defer to a CPA or an attorney to make the final rule on that, because the three of us, meaning myself as the wealth advisor, the CPA, and the attorney, we're kind of looking at it from a different perspectives, right? The attorney is looking at it usually for liability reasons, sometimes also tax. The accountant is primarily looking at it for tax purposes, and then I'm kind of looking at it from uh, different angles as well, right? How is this going to help with the transition of a business if they need to sell it, right?
Right, right.
Um, or if they're trying to raise capital, which entity is the best one to use? So there's different perspectives, but I am seeing a big move to S corporations, or being taxed as an S corporation.
Yeah. And another thing that I often see with my business owner clients, and I'm sure that's something that you see too, is where there are multiple owners. And did you ever execute any kind of an owner agreement between you? And sometimes the answer is yes, and maybe it's adequate, maybe it's not. But I'm guessing that that's also something that you kind of ask about.
Yeah, the answers to that are very similar to the estate planning questions, right? Well, do you have one, or when was the last time it was reviewed? Usually it's been a while. Sometimes there might have been new partners into the company, or maybe the partnership has changed. So yeah, reviewing that is important.
Yeah, I've seen this. I've seen this not too infrequently with my business owner clients, and I probably am guilty of it myself. The common business owner mistake of leaving too much wealth inside the business and not having enough or having any real personal wealth outside of the business. How do you, I'm sure you see this happen, and what is happening there? Why are business owners doing that, and why is that a bad thing?
Yeah, I think it may start off because they might be stuck in that similar mindset that they were when they first started the business, right? When you start a business, it takes a lot of capital to start any kind of business, right? You're injecting capital to buy equipment, to hire employees, get the right software, and then you got to pay yourself, and then pay taxes, and then you're trying to grow and expand and scale, and so that requires constant injection of capital, whether it's from your own profits or outside capital, whether using debts or other investors. And so I think business owners get stuck in this mindset of reinvesting, and they get stuck in it because it works, right? Uh,
It
well,
does grow the company. Yeah, it does.
hey, we did X amount of dollars last year. We reinvested, and now we're profitable. We're growing, right? So why fix what's not broken?
Yeah.
But I think that problem really comes to surface when business owners are faced with the possibility of having or the need of having to sell the business. Because I mean, most experts know that less than 20 to 30% of businesses actually sell.
Wow, that's an astounding statistic.
And oftentimes, those businesses that do sell are going to be selling for less than what the business owners thought they were worth. It's no different than a homeowner, right? A homeowner puts a house up for sale. They think it's worth X amount. They refuse to accept a penny less than that, but the market disagrees.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it's no different with a business. The business owner put
Yeah.
blood, sweat, and tears into it. I think it's worth this much. They want to sell it for that for an X amount of dollars, and yet the market's not responding to that. And so that's a big risk. And so um, that's why it's a bad thing is when it comes to the point where you are near retirement or you have to sell the business, and then you realize, gee, I may not even be able to sell it at all, or it's not valued for what I thought it was worth. That's a big problem.
Yeah, if you're expecting to retire by selling the business and living off of the sale proceeds, and it's not going to be enough because you didn't fill up your personal savings, personal investments bucket,
Hmm.
that is a problem. Yeah.
And it's hard to see, right? Because again, if cash flow is good and business is growing and they're living a good life, most of us aren't trained to think, 10, 15, 20 years ahead and thinking, okay, well, I have income now, but how is my future self without a business going to survive? And so, yeah.
Well, and that is one of the biggest values, I think, of working with somebody like you, a financial planner whose job it is to look into the future and make sure this whole life is going to work, and maybe, crack the whip over your clients a little bit and instill whatever discipline you need to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a good working relationship because they still have the power. Like, I always tell my clients, look, there's plan A and plan B. Plan A is you do what you do best and grow the business, get that valuation up, and we can bring other parties to the table to help with that. But my job is, at least I try to make it my job to help with plan B. And that is, how do we get business dollars tax efficiently transferred into our personal net worth? And so that way, by the time we get to that point where, we want to retire or we want to exit the business and start another one, if it doesn't sell or it doesn't sell for what we thought it would or what we needed it to sell for, we at least have all these other assets that we've built on the side.
Going to be okay. Okay. So how do you go about helping clients with that?
Yeah, it starts, I think, with a really deep dive conversation about their goals and objectives. I get them to really paint me a picture of what their future looks like. I want to be able to understand, you know, uh, where are they living? How are they living? How much income are they going to need? really peeling the layers of their retirement goals and objectives, if you will. From there, we can start to measure how far are we from those objectives. Are you going to be successful based on the track that you're on now? Are we doing the right things with business? And then clients who I think want it badly enough hire people like me to do the planning, get the forecasting done, and that way that we have the foresight to see where our strengths are, where our weaknesses are, where some opportunities are for us to perhaps optimize what we're doing already, and ultimately figuring out how to take those profits from the business, and maybe not 100% of the profits, but a small percentage of that, and then moving that over to our personal bucket.
And I'm guessing that the longer the runway, in other words, the earlier they start this kind of planning with you, the better, the more likely it is to succeed, and maybe the less painful it is as you go on. If we're hoping to retire in 5 years, we have to be very aggressive. But if we have 20 years, maybe we only need to take a little bit out of the business every year.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's part of the reason why when I'm working with business owners, I prefer to work with business owners who are thinking about a transition within the next, call it 10 years or so. And the transition doesn't necessarily have to mean retirement. It could just mean, I don't necessarily want to sell the business, but I don't want to be working at this pace.
I don't want to work so hard. Yeah.
Right. I want to spend more time with my family. I want to travel more, or I want to pick up more time for my hobbies. And that's more about how do we hire the right talent to allow for that business owner to take a different role within the company. So it could be a variety of different forms of transition.
Yeah. All right. Well, Miguel, thank you so much for all of your insights. I feel like I've learned a lot for myself personally. Okay, I see myself in some of this, and I'm sure our audience did as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on the show.
And we will connect with you next time. Remember, this is just one of multiple episodes where Miguel will be with us. My guest today has been Miguel Delgado with Legacy Wealth Management, and we will connect with you next time.
Thank you for joining us today for another episode of Absolute Trust Talk Live. If you enjoyed listening in, then don't forget to subscribe. You can find us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you may listen by searching Absolute Trust Talk. While you're there, we would also love for you to leave us a review. And then why not share your favorite episodes with family, friends, or colleagues too? You can find all of our shows and corresponding show notes by visiting absolutetrustcouncil.com. You'll also find a variety of other free resources, including our ebooks, videos, blogs, presentations, and more. If you need help with your estate planning or administration, we also offer a free discovery call to help get the process started. You can find more information on booking your session by visiting absolutetrustcouncil.com/scheduling. Don't forget to keep an eye out for our next live episode. If you join us for the broadcast, you can submit questions during the show. But if not, don't worry. You can always get in touch with us by sending a quick message to info@absolutetrustcouncil.com. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you soon.